Screen share on and
Screen share on as thank you everybody for attending. Asim, maybe most of the people know. First of all, he's a PSCC board member and he's PSCC secretary also. He travels to Pakistan almost every year, and he had done Hunza thing about a few months ago. Now he's going to do salt mine, Kevada salt mine. He was engineer. I don't know what he is now. He's a farmer now. He is now a farmer, Pakistani farmer. So let's start, Asim.
Chale, shukriya, Nasir bhai. Thank you for the introduction. I think a few rules. If there's any questions, please ask on the chat, and I will respond when appropriate. Also, please keep your mics muted in case there's any background noise or you have to talk to anybody, so you don't disturb other people. So today, let me share my screen. नजर आ रही है? स्क्रीन नजर आ रही है?
हाँ, नजर आ रही है.
चलें, ठीक. So last year in November, in October, November, we were in Pakistan, and as part of that, we traveled to Hunza, which I presented last year, I think in December. And also after that, we went to the Kevada salt mine. So I will go over some facts and history about that and what we saw. So let me start the presentation. You can see the full screen? Okay, thank you. So basically, I will go over some facts about the mine, the location, history, and the photos that we took. And there are some photos which I've inserted from Google Images, and the copyrights belong to the original posters. Those are usually, you can tell by there's a Google underneath like this one. So this is the entrance to the mine, and this was, as you can see, it was built. This entrance was completed in 1916, as you can see on the sign. Now, just a little bit of personal information. I visited this mine in 1966 or 67 from my school in Lahore. It was a summer trip. This was, after 40 plus years, this was the second visit. What I remember from the first time was that it was summer, so it was hot. But once you get inside the mine, it's cool. So we were very relieved with that. Okay, so a few facts about the mine. It is the second largest salt mine in the world. The largest, I believe, is in Canada, in Ontario. The salt deposits have been known since at least when Alexander was in this area, and he fought Porus, if you remember. He crossed the Jhelum River, which is very nearby, so it's a very historical area. Even without the salt mine, but it was, that is when it has been known globally since that time. The first recorded mining happened in the 13th century. by the local Rajas at the time. Now that was recorded, but before that there was also some trade and mining going on, but not at in a kind of commercial scale. So this mine produces most of the, in fact, all of the Himalayan pink salt, which is nowadays very popular in the West. And it's used for, baths and all kinds of therapeutic value. Now the various colors in the mine even and in other mines are due to trace minerals like iron, calcium, potassium, magnesium, and manganese. So different trace minerals will give different coloration to the salt. The mine itself is about 750 feet deep with 11 stories underground. Total of about 25 miles of tunnels, which go about half mile into the mountainside. And as I mentioned, the temperature inside remains around 60 degrees Fahrenheit year round. And we also see that in any cave system, like if you go to pinnacles or caverns in California or other places, the temperature is very stable and cool. Now, the mining is done using a pillar and room method. So basically half of it is mined and half is left as support pillars. So the whole thing doesn't come crashing down and you don't have to put supports in there. And that seems to have worked for hundreds of years, maybe even 2,000 years. About 325,000 tons are mined per year. And total is estimated total has been mined about 220 million. Now this is a conservative estimate, 500 million tons in reserve, but I've seen other estimates. This was the most, I think, one of the most conservative ones. But it's expected that it will last for a lot more time, especially since only half is mined. If they improve the technology and support it, mine the other half. This mine also contains a 20-bed salt therapy and allergic asthma clinic. And a lot of people swear by that the salt infused air inside helps with their asthma, which is caused by allergies. So some people may want to try it if they have these kind of issues. Now the tours are conducted. It's a big tourist attraction for local people and foreign tourists. And the basic tour, you can tour it on foot, but you can, if you don't want to do that, you can upgrade to there's a narrow gauge train which goes in and out carrying the mined salt out and workers in and equipment in. So that narrow gauge train, you can also buy a ticket for that, and you get a guided tour on that tour. The location is located in the appropriately named salt range, which is between Islamabad and Lahore, roughly halfway. Not quite. It's 110 miles by road from Islamabad. It takes about 3 hours, and about 150 miles from Lahore, about 4 hours. Most of it you travel on the motorway M2, and then you have to take some side roads to get to the mine. Now the salt range, it rises pretty steeply, about 2,000 feet from the plains of the Punjab and onto the Potohar plateau behind it. And this is north of the Jhelum River. The salt range is about 186 miles long and 5 to 19 miles wide. The highest point in this range is 5,000 feet at Sakesar. And the salt deposits are from the pre-Cambrian age, which means more than, I think, 500 million years ago. So before that time, this happened. Now this is a zoom in of that area, and you can see from the terrain map, you can see the salt range coming out right north of the Jhelum River. It comes up from the plains, and the mine is right here, right at the bottom of the salt range in that area. Anything else on this slide? Yeah, just a side note for people who are interested. So Jhelum is over here, and this place Dina, for those who know Gulzar, the famous poet of Indian cinema. He was born here, and he is from here. He was from this town Dina, and when he visited Pakistan, he visited here. Just a side note. Now, as I said, the salt range rises pretty steeply, and you can see this. This is the view from the motorway, looking north as you're going toward Islamabad, and you can see it rises. You can't miss it. It rises very steeply with a lot of cliffs and steep mountains, and you can see the sign for the salt mines. This next exit is salt mine. This is going from Lahore side to Islamabad. Now, what we did was we actually visited on the way from Rawalpindi to Lahore. So we were coming the opposite direction on M2. So you can see the motorway in Kalar Kahar. You take this side road to a place called Katas, and then down the slopes of the salt range to the Kira salt mines. And then you take this other road back to the motorway and then on to Lahore. So that's what we did. And the reason was we wanted to see Katas also, which we will maybe cover in a future session. But that's supposedly the oldest university in the world was here. So ancient, and then ancient Hindu temples and a lot of Hindu folklore is centered in this area called Katas. And then from that you descend the salt range into the plains of Punjab. So a lot of history in this area. Now, side note again, as you come down from Katas towards the plains, you can see huge distances to the horizon. And of course, in ancient times, there would not have been that much smoke or haze, so you could see practically the curvature of the earth. And related to that is an interesting fact also, that Al-Biruni visited this area, and in 1017 AD, he calculated the radius and therefore the circumference of the earth within 1% by, there's an ancient Nandana fort close to this area at the top of the salt range. And he, using an astrolabe, he measured the height of the fort and the angle of dip of the horizon, as you can see very far from the fort. And then he used trigonometry to calculate the radius of the earth. So this is again very historical from that point of view. And he was actually visiting the university at Katas when he was here. So there's a lot of history and science in this area. And I haven't visited the Nandana Fort, but it's on the list, maybe one of these trips. Okay, so the history, it was discovered in 326 BC when Alexander's army. Now, discovered is in quotes because it doesn't matter if the natives have been using it or have discovered it. When the Europeans come, that's when it gets discovered, right? All over the world, pretty much in these days. So when his army came and they were fighting, they crossed the Jhelum River, which was at that time known as the Hydaspes, or the Greek name was Hydaspes River. There's a lot of history associated with that crossing also. So when the army was assembled on the banks of the Jhelum, and since this is very near Jhelum, the horses started licking the rocks, and then the people found out that it was salty, and that's when they sort of discover that there's a salt mine here or salt deposits over here, and that was the start of the sort of discovery of this salt mine. So it's more than 2,000 years old, the discovery. So as the regimes changed, so during the Mughal reign, it was mined and traded as far away as Central Asia. Then after the Mughals went into decline, the Sikh empire took over this part, and they took it over in 1809, and they were mining it and trading with it. And then finally, when the British defeated the Sikhs, they took control, and they made major improvements in 1872. Now, during British time, it was called the Mayo Salt Mine after the Viceroy of India, who also visited the salt mine. Now, since independence, it was run by various Government of Pakistan agencies like WPIDC and a couple of other ones. Currently, it's run by PMDC, the Mine Development Corporation. Now, inside the mine, you can see on the bottom is like a pictorial history of the mine. So, starting from the left, this is Alexander's discovery of the mine, and then the local people started using it, and then told Akbar, and then the Mughals started mining it, and then of course on the right side the British took over. So that is a brief history of the mines of the mine. Now we go inside the mine, and these are some of the caverns and the pathways inside where the workers and now the tourists go. And you can see all these wires on the top and on the sides carry electricity and communication. Now on the right, you can see the pickaxe marks from the mining in the old days, and they are still kept it there. And you can see the different coloration. You can see the pink and the black and the white colors of the salt in this area. Now they have, as you go deeper inside, they have now in the tourist areas, they've installed these lights and they keep changing colors. And so you can see the same, the stalactites and stalagmites. Stalactites are the ones that come from the top, and mites are the ones that come from the bottom. You can see those reflected in the brine pool, which is heavily salt water pool. And as the lights change, you can see the colors changing. So it's a pretty nice, nice, cool place to visit. Cool both because it's cool, and cool because of the lights also. Now inside they've built some, using the salt bricks, they've built some structures. On the left is the Minar-e-Pakistan replica. The Minar-e-Pakistan is in Lahore, in Iqbal Park, next to the Badshahi Mosque. And that had been recreated, and with some translucent tiles, you can see the light, and they have lights inside. So it's a very nice spectacle if you go inside. And there were a lot of tourists at that time, young girls from school and parents and families. On the right is a mosque built again from the salt bricks with some translucent tiles, and it is a functioning mosque. You can't see it here, but there's prayer rugs inside. So Asghar Bhai, we have to do wuzu to go in there and say our prayers. Again, there's more lights and stalactites and stalagmites. This person on the left in the middle, he was our guide. He's trying to corral the troops, show us, and you can see, this huge stalactite and the dripping stalactites and the huge stalagmite and the dripping stalactite. Again, a nice spectacle worth visiting at least once. And here you can see the pink salt, always kind of smooth, and people going back and forth. And again, you can see the color variation on the left, black and some white, but mainly on the top, it's all pink. Now here are some, how can I say, the people interpret some of these patterns as writings, and they try to make out words according to what they think it is. So, for example, on the right, they say this makes up a Muhammad. This thing. So they kind of they try to see what they want to see, I suppose. But some of them look pretty. They look like what they say it is. Okay, now here you can see a couple of brine pools, which is like salt water, and you can see the salt water, the salt crystals on the pool. And this is like a couple of caves that were dug to mine. And on the extreme right, you can see the light, some of the lights that are facing in, so it gives a good effect. Now, again, there's a brine pool on the left with some caves in the distance, and you can see a hole over here in the pink area. So all of this is mining activity. On the right, there's a dispensary also inside, and they've done it up really well with lights and translucent bricks. And of course, like I mentioned, there's a clinic also in there for asthma patients. And that is about all for the tour. So this is a video from the train as we were coming out. So you can see the people walking on the side. These were on the basic tour. So if you want to do that next to the train, you can do it, but recommend the train. And then as you come out, you can see the people waiting for the next time, these schoolgirls on a trip, I suppose. There's the ticket office on the right. And it's an electric train. You were able to see that kind of electric wire hanging in the middle of the rail. And there's entertainment for all. You can see that swinging boat in the background. It's kind of like a fairground stuff to keep the kids entertained. And that's about it. We're out now. Oops. And this is the mosque outside the outside the mine as you're coming out. And there's plenty of souvenir shops and other stuff you want to buy. They make all kinds of stuff from the salt. You can see the ashtrays. Of course, no smoking allowed these days. And all kinds of the letters in the back, the lampshades, the lamps, and in fact, you can put a bulb inside, and it gives you a very nice translucent glow. You can see these lamps in the back, and then of course these are the salt, rock salt, pink salt, white salt, and then here's some more fine pieces of salt. So that's about it for the tour. If there's any questions, we can go over them.
There are no questions in the chat area, but is there any history of, like you say, it's like Precambrian era, but how was it formed? Any history? Anybody's done any work on that?
Yeah, there's lots of stuff on the net that you can find. Basically, most of this salt comes from when it was underwater, right? And then and then this salt range was caused by a uplift in the Indian plain.
Okay.
Long time ago in the Precambrian times, and so that lifted up the whole thing, and you get the salt range.
Makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, so this is or was a very geologically active area, and to the north, of course, you can see that in the huge mountain ranges. They're still active. The Hindu Kush, the Karakorams, the Himalayas, they're all based on this similar type of activity.
Yeah.
But you don't get too much activity in the Potohar Plateau and Punjab now. So hopefully it's mostly behind us.
So Ibrahim Saab is asking, how long is the tour?
The tour was, as I remember, it was like half an hour or so, not too long. We barely caught the train. And we went to get the tickets. They said, "Oh, the train is about to leave. Let me call them and hold them up." So we got the tickets and ran to the train.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't have to wait. And then once we got on, there was a guide explaining everything. And then once you get inside, you get off and you walk around with the guide, and he points out all the objects of interest and some history and some facts. So overall, it's a very good experience. I think if you walk in, it's less charge, but there's some people inside who are, I think, freelancers who you can get for guides. But this guy with the train is an official guide, so I think it's better.
And so, but you seems like in half an hour you cannot go very far inside, right? Or the train takes you how far inside?
Yeah, the train doesn't take you very far. The train maybe is a 5 minute or maximum 10-minute ride.
Yeah,
And then after that, you're walking around, seeing all these things. So maybe it's half an hour to 45 minutes.
I see. Okay.
You're not going too deep into the
Yeah.
mind, but enough to get a flavor and see the sights.
Someplace I've seen a cave and I don't remember which area was that, whether it was in Northern California. There was one of the cave was so big and roof was so high. They made a kind of a stage over there and there was performances and the music performances.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I think there's a Oregon caves just across the border.
Yeah.
Which is huge caves, but those are actual caves. These are mines, so they weren't caves, they were actually dug out.
Yeah, I see. Yeah. So the whole area, basically, they started, when they saw the salt outside, they started digging, right?
Yeah, so apparently the horses, I mean, it looked like rock from the outside. And when the horses started licking and they actually, what they said that the ill horses became better. So then the army tasted it also, and they said it was salt. And I don't know if at that time they mined it, but
Yeah.
it became known at the time.
Okay, good. Ibrahim have any other question?
नहीं, कोई और सवाल नहीं है। ये यही मालूम करना था कितना अंदर ले जाते हैं। ऐसा लगता है उनका ऑपरेशन अलग है और ये टूरिस्ट के लिए अलग उन्होंने बना रखा है।
जी बिल्कुल, this entrance is now exclusively used by the tourists. They have a separate entrance for the workers in the back, where they have the actual trains that they go in now. These are, old trains from and old shafts from way back when.
Okay.
Of course, they don't want to disturb the operations and have the tourists exposed to all the mining operations also.
It could be dangerous also.
Oh, it probably is, yeah.
माइनिंग में डस्ट बहुत होती है नहीं?
Yes.
Inside you go and it's a lot of dust और ऑक्सीजन कम रहती है।
Mm.
Okay, anything else, Asim?
No, that's about it. I was kind of thinking of doing the Katas thing also, but we'll do it some other time. That requires some more history background in that.
All right. Chaliye, फिर thank you very much, Asim. Ibrahim bhai, thanks for coming.
शुक्रिया आसिम साहब को
तरकश
और
साहब
आपका भी ये अरेंज।
तरकश साहब आए थे, वो फिर ड्रॉप आउट हो गए।
उनको अक्सर वो इंटरनेट से प्रॉब्लम रहता है जब भी वो किसी मीटिंग में आती।
अच्छा।
चलिए
जी, थैंक यू।
अच्छी बात।
Okay जी, thank you.
खुदा हाफिज।
खुदा हाफिज।